Hello and welcome today to Food Safety Procedures, sponsored by Pasonic Partners, where we help you plan your purpose. And today our purpose, as many of you, is emergency preparedness. And we felt very timely information regarding food safety and deployment of non-congregate meals is a topic that we can help support you and your teams to be successful. On our team today, we have Ms. Sarah Carlson. She is our partner dietitian who is level 2 ServSafe proctor and all things food safety guru in our partnership, in our practice. And so we are going to allow to best practices and tips and then open up with some possible question and answers as we move forward to help you plan meal service during this time of emergency preparedness and crisis.
Good afternoon, everybody. So as Maureen said, we're going to talk about some food safety procedures as we work through how to feed our students during this extended spring break / time of emergent crisis. So the first thing that I want to talk to you all about is the process called time in lieu of temperature. This is a method of food safety that is used to hold TCS foods. If you're not familiar, TCS is time and temperature control safety. Food items without heat or refrigeration to make sure that they stay out of the temperature danger zone of 41 Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This time will limit the time that they spend in that and hopefully help to prevent foodborne illness because we do serve high-risk populations with some of our younger children. So if we look at hot versus cold food, there are a little bit different requirements for each. So cold foods, once you remove them from refrigeration, at the time you remove them, they should be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. You can keep them without continued refrigeration for up to 6 hours, so long as these items do not exceed 70 degrees. Then at the end, these items need to be discarded. Hot foods, once you remove them from heat, they should be 135 or higher at that point. And you can hold those items without temperature control for up to 4 hours. And then again, these items must be discarded. So your food operation will need to have a risk class 4 food license. If you currently do not have this license, you will need to reach out to your local Board of Health to ensure that you have the proper license to be able to serve these foods. Your district will also need to have a written TILT. TILT is the acronym for Time in Lieu of Temperature Procedure Policy. As you can see below, this is an example of the documentation that will need to be kept daily in order to ensure the food is safe. So when I say temperature danger zone, this is what I'm looking at if you want to print this out and refer back to it. So cold foods need to stay cold, 41 or lower, and hot foods need to stay hot at 135 or higher. We specifically do not want foods to sit between the temperatures of 70 to 125 because that's where bacteria grow the most. So when we look at the food pickup and distribution process, your pickup locations should exclude exposure to food and food preparation areas. So you want to choose a site that is away from your traditional kitchen or cafeteria space, if and when possible. You should provide a runner that would take the food to this pickup location to be picked up by families in your district. We also want you to ensure that all the food items that you are providing are in closed containers or individually wrapped. Again, this is a food safety procedure. We want to ensure that there's adequate hand sanitation stations for your visitors and staff. So the people coming into the building, even though they are excluded from the food and food prep areas, we want to ensure that we keep as much of the virus out of the area that they are in as physically possible. Please consider offering breakfast and lunch during one pickup time frame to reduce exposure. There must be at least one individual with a level 2 food safety certification on site during food preparation and serving. So you'll need to ensure that the staff member that you have coming on site does carry this certification. So as we sat as a team, we thought about some menu suggestions for food safety. So as you are thinking through your menu, I know that we do have to offer fruits and vegetables to the kids, but these are some items that are time temperature control for safety concerns. So meat products, eggs, fish and shellfish, dairy-containing items, cooked vegetables, potatoes, protein-rich plant foods like soy, raw sprouts, cut leafy greens, untreated garlic oil, and sliced melons and tomatoes. So a lot of these items sit on our trays and are okay for most use if we can reduce the amount of offering of these items. That would be best at this time. Because again, we are doing that time in lieu of temperature if you are taking items off site. The next most important thing with all viruses, so just so that you all are aware, you cannot cook viruses out of food. So although the coronavirus or COVID-19 is not spread via food, it is spread via the fecal oral route, so that is from improper hand washing, and you can contaminate food. Okay, so it's not the food harboring the virus itself, it's the person that is handling the food that then can become contaminated. So this is where proper hand washing becomes absolutely essential. So in order to properly wash your hands, there are steps that you need to take, and they need to go in a very specific order, again, to ensure that your hands are properly cleaned and sanitized. So you would want to first turn on the sink with warm running water. The water does not have to be so hot that it scalds your hands, but it should be warm. You'll want to dispense your paper towel if it is not hands-free. So some of our buildings have ones that the paper towels automatically dispense, but if you are in a building that has a pump down situation, you'll want to pump that paper towel out before you begin washing your hands. You then want to continue to wet your hands and apply the hand soap. You'll want to scrub your hands and wrists thoroughly for at least 15 to 20 seconds. You can sing the happy birthday song, you can repeat the alphabet twice, whatever you need to do to make sure that your hands are being scrubbed for at least 15 to 20 seconds. You will then rinse your hands well with that warm running water. You will dry your hands with a disposable paper towel. You will use that paper towel to then turn off the sink and dispose of that paper towel in a trash receptacle. Now, I know that there is a shortage on Purell and everybody's out of the store fighting over this, but hand sanitizer does not replace regular hand washing. It is important that you wash your hands. You may sanitize your hands after you wash them as a secondary precautionary method, but you still need to be washing your hands every time and not just using hand sanitizer. Disposable gloves become another huge issue. These are something that we think about just in our day-to-day, and they become even more important to think about as we try to eliminate spreading of a virus. So again, just as hand sanitizer does not replace good hand washing, gloves do not replace good hand washing either. These disposable gloves need to be changed regularly, okay? So after you move from a station, if you have to go back to the cooler or freezer, to the oven, whatever the case may be, you would need to rewash your hands and change your gloves. Every 4 hours, they need changed if you're doing continuous work. So if you are bagging meals for 4 hours, you would need to change those gloves after 4 hours. If you stop to eat or drink something, you would need to remove those gloves, wash your hands, and put on clean gloves. If you touch your face or any other unsanitary item or surface, again, touching of your face is huge when we're talking about spreading viruses and bacteria. So please be cognizant of how much you are touching your face. And then obviously after putting your hands onto or into pot holders, again, please make sure that you are removing your gloves and washing your hands. The gloves are only as clean and sanitary as the hands that you place inside. So again, this is more of a barrier for your hands. Your hands themselves need to be clean and sanitary before putting on the disposable gloves. These gloves must be worn when you prepare any ready-to-eat foods that will not be cooked. During this time, I would like to encourage everyone to be wearing gloves regardless. And then you must be worn if you are wearing any artificial nails or nail polish of any kind. Again, if somebody's in the kitchen helping you prep bags or make food, please make sure that they know how to properly wash their hands and use the disposable gloves. The next big thing becomes the employee sickness log. So if you do have any communicable symptoms, specifically right now we're looking at the ones of the coronavirus or COVID-19, that's a fever of 100.4 Fahrenheit or higher, a cough or shortness of breath, it is your responsibility to report these communicable symptoms to your person in charge. And also, again, continue to report regular, typical foodborne illness symptoms, such as fever with a sore throat, jaundice, vomiting, diarrhea, or any lesion that you may have that would have. These symptoms, again, must be recorded and logged to the person in charge of your building. These individuals must be excluded from work until they are released by a physician. And again, with COVID-19, there is a 14-day period in which you must be excluded from work. This is an example of an employee sickness log. You should all have these somewhere in your kitchen, and you should be keeping track of them if anybody in your kitchen is out due to a communicable symptom. This is the employee sickness flow chart. So when we look at what is that dialogue? So an employee calls in to you and says, hey, I'm not feeling very well today. As the person in charge, it's my responsibility to ask the employee, do you know if you have something that is communicable through food? And then the flow goes, yes. So then the manager would obtain the name of the disease and exclude that employee. There is a number that you can call to report this to your local Board of Health. And then obviously, no or I don't know. It is your duty as a person in charge to ask them then more leading questions. Do you have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or jaundice? Do you have a sore throat with a fever or any open lesion? And then again, making sure that you're doing the appropriate follow through, whether that's a yes or a no.
Certainly the requirements of the Ohio Department of Education, regardless of time or type of offering of menu, require production records. And so the next part of this presentation is going to talk a little bit about appropriate documentation to retain while you are creating meals and serving them. So as a side note, there are still our recommendations and requirements that we need to follow. So the next set of slides, Sarah will go through, we'll talk about some documentations that are required for you to continue to mobilize and keep on record as we go into alternate meal provision.
Thanks, Maureen. So again, all of the items that we're keeping track of on a daily basis in regular food service settings, we'll still want to do the same in this setting as well. So what are the food components being served? What are the products being used? What was the serving size? Your total serve? What was the total prepared? Your number of reimbursable meals? This is going to be really important because in a lot of situations, we're probably not going to have our traditional point of sale systems up and running. What are we doing with leftovers? And again, temperatures are going to reign supreme in this time. So please remember, again, that you should be taking 2 to 3 temperatures and logging that on your production record. That first temperature is your cooking temperature or reheat to make sure that we've gotten the food to the appropriate temperature, and then with cold food that it was held correctly and it is temping at 41 or lower. The second should be a holding temperature. So again, for hot food that it's holding at 135 or higher, and for cold foods that they're holding at 41 or lower. And the third is at the end of the day temperature. If you're going to use items for leftovers, again, that they have not been setting in the temperature danger zone. As you'll see here, there's also an example of a batch cooking log. So again, if you're making multiple batches of things, and that's probably not all going to fit on your production record, this is another way that you're able to keep track of what you made, what was the temperature, and a date, and verified by who took the temperature. So what documentation do we need for food temperatures? So those 3 individual temperatures is best practice. That, again, that first temperature should be done at the beginning of food service, again, to ensure that the food is safe before we even start serving any of our customers. The second temp should be done in the middle of food service, or more often if your service lasts longer than an hour, and if you aren't batch cooking, or if that batch is going to last into the next line, that we are temping again to make sure that the holding units are keeping foods hot and cold. And then again, that final temp should be at the end of the day. A log should be accompanying your food delivery if you are taking things off-site, to ensure that when the foods get to the off-site, that they are, hot foods are still at 135 or higher, and your cold foods are being held at 41 or lower. So if we look at documentation, here's an example. These are our Healthy Meal Planner Pro production records. So most production records look fairly similar to this. As you can see highlighted in yellow on your right, the temperatures are 1, 2, and 3. Those should be filled out for each item that is on this production record for the day. So again, we do serve little kiddos. Some of our kiddos do have immunocompromising things going on that we want to be cognizant of as we are trying to serve them. So if you take a look at this, you can see the proliferation of bacteria, and this does increase quite exponentially once those organisms get into the food and have time to sit in that temperature danger zone. So again, temperature is really important so that we assure that the food we're serving kids is safe. We want to make sure they don't get the virus, and we want to make sure they're not getting foodborne illness as well. So this is kind of a way to understand how disease is transmitted. So there is a triad that is needed for disease to be transmitted. So there has to be people, so whether that's food workers or your customers. There has to be a pathway, that method of contamination. In the COVID-19 state that we are in, this is the fecal-oral route. So contamination is through poor personal hygiene with hand washing. And then the pathogen itself, what is that disease-causing microorganism? And again, the virus of concern right now is COVID-19.
That concludes our slides. I would like to just leave with some final parting thoughts, and then again, Sarah, you can add in. Certainly we know that our most important customers, the children we serve in K through 12 and early childhood environments, are certainly way more susceptible to foodborne illness and the effect of foodborne illness than really they are right now being reportedly affected by the COVID virus. I definitely feel this time it's really a great chance to re-up everyone's basic knowledge on food safety. And so I think this webinar hopefully will serve to help not only existing employees who may or may not already be level 1, level 2 certified, but any and all of those precious volunteers that schools will be mobilizing in order to create meal systems that work. Obviously, from the packaging to the delivery, we know that there perhaps will be many more people that have never even had food safety training. So while this does not replace level 1 or level 2 certification, we certainly hope it stands to be a refresher for those who are certified, and perhaps an entry-level support to volunteers that you would have within your school environment to be able to ensure the safety of students that are going to be served in an alternative fashion. Also, understanding we do want to be a resource and a support for all schools that are planning these meals, and some of the points highlighted just in review, making a menu that not only meets the needs of counting and claiming, but also picking foods that tend to be more safer and out of the TCS category really does help with some guidance in terms of how to get foods to students in a safe manner. There are many different ways that schools in our region are electing to serve meals, and so certainly this is not meant to be a one-size-fits-all plan. I think every school district needs to resurrect their emergency preparedness safety plan, and in that plan be able to include ways that the schools are continuing to document temperatures and continue to follow food safety and other safety regulations. One other item that I would like to highlight is the use of the body fluid cleanup protocols that many of us had reviewed during the norovirus outbreak and scare in schools. Obviously, as described, COVID-19 is something that we will be preventing and cleaning against for, knowing what agents and products are right now being approved for that function and purpose, and also knowing that a body fluid does include the droplets of mucus that happen during coughing and sneezing. And so using that protocol is a nice benchmark in order to continue to look at plans that may already be in place in your safety plans that you could resurrect again and put in more details related to the current state of our emergency preparedness planning for the COVID outbreak and epidemic, pan-epidemic we have Sarah, anything else for closing? I appreciate your time and your expertise today, certainly knowing that support@pplc.info is an email that you can readily use for questions, and certainly Sarah being our resident expert, we will be mobilizing responses as we see we are getting new or any additional information to share.
Yeah, the only additional thing that I will add is just, again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is going to be to wash your hands in the upcoming weeks and to make sure that we are properly using disposable gloves. I know that the days get really busy, and especially as we think through packing meals for multiple days and sending them out, and we may be working with not as many staff as we are accustomed to. However, we do really need to take the time to wash our hands, okay? Again, it's about 30 seconds. If you look at that slide from start to finish to properly wash your hands, please take that 30 seconds throughout your day so that we can keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you all. That concludes our webinar. Again, please reach out to us at Pasonic Partners. We will be mobilizing not only food safety recommendations during the course of this alternative meal delivery system, but we are also helping schools create cycle menus that will help them meet regulations and be safe for students. Again, reach out to Pasonic Partners at support, that's SUPPORT at pplc.info, and or call our office line at 440-922-6770. Thank you all and stay healthy.